April is coming up fast and there's a ton of great games we want to play that month. Hi folks, it's Falcon and today on Game Ranks, 10 upcoming games in April 2021. Starting off with number 10, it's Humankind, a 4X kind of Civ-like game developed by Amplitude Studios, brought to us by Sega. Basically, it's a game that starts you at the nomadic age. You have to build a human society, direct it, and so on. If you are familiar with Endless Legend, which is another Amplitude game, it's a little older, from 2014, but this follows pretty similar gameplay structure, albeit with more things like multiple territories and other bigger features. In fact, this is a game that the developers consider kind of to be the logical conclusion to their entire quote-unquote endless series, basically what they've been building towards their entire careers. And since they were recently acquired by Sega and were able to have larger budgets, they were able to attain what they've been trying to do the whole time, according to them at least. That is of course cool, and I really hope that it lives up to that. It is a very cool looking game, and I look forward to playing it when it hits PC and Stadia on April 22nd. At number 9 is Century Age of Ashes, which is a multiplayer dragon air battling game. And in truth, it looks like a really fun dogfight oriented game. This is one where I saw the trailer and I thought, wow, this has a lot of momentum. Obviously, I haven't played it yet, but I feel like from the footage that they've put out, it's kind of easy to tell exactly how it's gonna play, aside from obviously a couple of minor things. There's locking on, there's various different types of attacks. It's very fast-paced, there's a lot of dodging, and just to be frank, it looks like an extremely badass game. It's also free to play, which obviously until we have more of an idea of exactly what's going on with the free to play mechanics, we're not going to be able to tell you whether that's something intrusive or good or bad. But as it stands, I think this potentially could be a really big multiplayer game. It's going into early access in April. We don't have an exact date, but it is landing on Steam on PC sometime during the month. At number 8 is Oddworld Soulstorm, which is something I've been looking forward to for quite a while. It is a reimagining of Oddworld Abe's Exodus, which is the direct sequel to the original Oddworld Abe's Odyssey. So it does make me happy. They're not particularly changing up the formula, which is definitely a good thing. We'll probably see some of the inserts like we did in New and Tasty, the remake of the original game. However, they're taking more liberties with the story than they did with the original, and they're calling it a bigger version of Abe's Exodus. Now, this is, like I said, something I'm particularly interested in. I really enjoy the Oddworld games. My favorites are probably the originals, though, Exodus and Odyssey specifically. So Soulstorm could potentially be a much more interesting title than even the New and Tasty remake of Odyssey specifically. This is just one of those 90s platformers that I just think is fantastic. I played the hell out of Oddworld way back when and when the remake came out, so I'm really looking forward to this. It's landing on PC, PS4, and PS5 on April 6th. At number 7 is Star Wars Republic Commando. Basically a tactical FPS set in the Star Wars universe. It's a much grittier, much darker attempt at telling a story during the Clone Wars era of the Star Wars timeline, and it works out really good. This is a game that probably is easy to forget because it's on such an early system. It's developed for the Xbox, and to be frank, considering how old it is, it still looks pretty good. Where a lot of games don't really age great, this one for me actually manages some pretty good nostalgia and is pleasant to look at. It's kind of in some ways Rainbow Six Star Wars Edition, and I remember playing the absolute hell out of this game. When I heard this one was landing on the Switch, I was just like, oh my god, finally. Star Wars Republic Commando is a fantastic FPS on its own. In terms of a Star Wars game, it's way above, especially other Star Wars games from the era, because there was a time when there's just so many of these things, and a ton of them were trash. For me, the old Battlefronts and Republic Commando, pretty much the best Star Wars shooters, and I will absolutely be getting it for Switch when it comes out on the Nintendo platform as well as PS4 on April 6th. At number 6 is MotoGP 21, which is billed as the most authentic MotoGP experience out there. Obviously, the MotoGP series has continued to build through the years. Last year's was viewed by many as probably one of the best ones they've done, if not the best one, and they're obviously building on that experience here. This is a series that's known for physics and just being really accurate and even a little unforgiving. But it is also a series where the AI has gotten better through the years as well. I mean, in all honesty, after last year's, I'm ready to see another because they continue to get better and better. I mean, I'm going off of last year's version, but you're not going to have a difficult time understanding what you need to do. It's got a good career mode. Last year's multiplayer was quite good, as are the graphics in this series. So for me, the latest in this series is kind of a no-brainer. It's coming to a lot of platforms too, so you have no excuse not to play it if this is the type of game you like. It's coming to Windows, Nintendo Switch, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, and it's coming out on April 22nd. At number 5 is MLB The Show 21, a long-running series started way back in 2006 on the PlayStation 2. It's one that has done a lot of developing through the years. I think the more recent ones are a little bit better personally. It's one of those series that hasn't gotten major facelifts, but gradually developed through the years. And prior to being The Show, it was just MLB and then a number. But The Show was kind of a turning point a little bit. It was regarded as possibly the best out of all the baseball games. I kind of felt like last year's fits into that category as well, although maybe not by the kind of margin that MLB The Show 06 did. There was some minor issues last year with custom teams. It was never something that I really cared a whole lot about, but I do remember people being kind of iffy about it. But I always enjoyed the mechanics of these games, and as long as they don't mess it up, obviously MLB The Show 21 should be another solid entry to the series. That's coming to PS5, Xbox Series X, PS4, and Xbox One on April 20th. At number 4 is new Pokemon Snap. This has been probably a long time coming in my opinion. I remember way back in the day when Pokemon Snap first came out on the Nintendo 64. I mean, we're talking way back in 1999. It was the first time Pokemon had ever been rendered in 3D, and honestly, it got some kind of undeserved criticism as a kind of nothing game. But although it's certainly not action-packed, it is an interesting title that sort of stands alone as a totally unique game. Basically, in Pokemon Snap, you kind of go on a little bit of a safari and take pictures of Pokemon. That sounds very boring, but it is actually not. It is charming and fun, and if you like Pokemon and don't need like the world to be about to end in a game for it to be enjoyable, it's kind of an addictive and strange game. I'm excited that there's a new one coming out personally. In a lot of ways, it's kind of better suited to now than then because you have all of the social features for sharing photos and stuff like that built in. I'm pretty stoked. Honestly, I miss Pokemon Snap, and I will definitely be giving it at least a shot when it comes around on Nintendo Switch on April 30th. At number 3 is Nier Replicant, version 1.22474487139. Yeah, I wanted to say that because it's silly. Nier Replicant is actually the original version of Nier from Japan, which was changed to Nier Gestalt for American audiences. They gave an older protagonist to make it more appealing. It's complicated. I get past it by saying, who cares? Nier is great. And it is great, and that's exactly why you should play it. Like, if you like Nier Automata, I would say that this game isn't as good, and that's partially because Nier Automata's gameplay is just significantly better. It's a Platinum game, and Platinum games are great. But Nier is a good game. It's got a good story, very solid gameplay. It's not as fast-paced as Automata. You'll probably see up a whole lot less skirts in it as well. I don't know if that's a pro or a con for you. I don't. It doesn't matter. It's certainly a good game that takes place in the same universe, same timeline, etc. I will definitely be playing Nier Replicant when it lands. It's been a while, and I love me some Nier. It's hitting PC, PS4, and Xbox One on April 23rd. At number 2 is Outriders, a cooperative role-playing third-person game that in some ways really comes off a lot like Gears of War, and that is by no coincidence. The developer People Can Fly was the developer on Gears of War Judgment. They were also the developer that brought us Bulletstorm, and what I like about this game is it really appears to kind of take the sum of their experience and combine it into one thing that adds a lot of RPG elements, classes, skill trees, etc., with what seems to possibly be a very interesting story, essentially following humanity attempting to colonize a planet where a massive energy storm hits and messes everything up, also gives the colonists superpowers. Some folks thought this was going to be a live service title, but People Can Fly explicitly said it is not. That's good, because honestly, I kind of want to see how it plays out as a traditional game. Outriders is hitting PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, and Stadia on April 1st. And finally, at number 1 is Returnal, a game that I think is honestly going to be a big game. This is one of the big exclusives that we've been shown for PlayStation 5 that honestly, it just looks really cool. It's a third-person psychological horror shooter, and it incorporates roguelike elements in that you're stuck in a time loop, where every time you go through the time loop, things have changed. You're basically some form of space traveler who has crash-landed on a planet. You relive that crash after trying to survive on the planet, dying, etc., etc. I mean, for me, it kind of looks like Alien Isolation or Dead Space in some ways, but obviously the roguelike formula is very different from those games. I'm hoping that that type of stuff pans out because I love those games. I want more of those, particularly Dead Space. If this turns out to play a lot like Dead Space, I'm there. It's certainly a shooter I am really interested in playing, and I will be when it lands on PS5, April 30th. That is all for today. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. The best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable all notifications, and as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time right here on GameRanks.